Yo, what's going on, everybody? Happy Sunday to all the real ones tuning in. Not at the studio today. It's my off day here as you're watching Giants Now by Chat Sports, and I'm your host, Marshall Green. But we've got some major injury news to get to with Malik Nabers. We got to talk about Evan Neal, who has been elevated off the PUP list, and Brian Daboll made it pretty clear that Daniel Jones is going to play in preseason week 2 against the Houston Texans. But first, hit that thumbs up icon for me. Not at the studio today, but still wanted to get you the latest news and rumors. And we're talking about Malik Nabers and an ankle/foot injury that caused him to miss practice. I've been holding my breath, waiting for an update, just like I'm sure all of you. And we've got one. So hit that thumbs up icon, and let's get the good vibes rolling around Malik Nabers. We cannot afford for him to be hurt. So good vibes. Get him rolling. Smash that thumbs up icon if you want Malik Nabers to be healthy. Let's start there. Malik Nabers ended up leaving practice today as the Giants had an early Sunday morning practice. Went to the ground, holding his foot, took off his cleat, eventually got up, limped off, and then limped to the locker room. He did not return to practice. There are now reports coming out as we just started filming this video that it appears that Malik Nabers may have escaped the worst possible outcome. Charlotte Carroll and other New York Giants beat reporters saying the Giants initially believe it's a minor ankle sprain for Malik Nabers. It is standard for more tests to be done in a situation like this. Dan Duggan of The Athletic saying obviously a positive initial report, but can't fully exhale until he undergoes further examination. I'm going to scroll through my Twitter one more time to see if I can see anybody else talking about Malik Nabers. But man, anytime a receiver, a guy that is great because of their athleticism, their start-stop ability, their speed, their agility, their reason for being great is because of how athletic they are, and they go to the ground, they hold their foot, and they throw their cleat, and they're in pain. You're thinking the absolute worst, and I was, and I'm a pessimistic person when it comes to New York Giants injuries because we're New York Giants fans, but initial belief is it's a minor ankle sprain for Malik Nabers. Do I believe it? No, because I know who Brian Daboll is, and that's not anything bad about him. He's just not very forward or transparent with injuries, and he's not supposed to be. He doesn't have to be. He's the head coach of this football team. He can say whatever he wants. But going into year 3 of covering this team, I know that Brian Daboll is going to be as vague as possible and leave the media and the fans with as much optimism as possible. I hope he's all right. And you know what? I think that he is most likely all right. Ralph Vacchiano now saying suffered what the Giants believe is a minor ankle sprain in practice today. There will be more testing and maybe a day or 2 of rest, but the concern level appears low at the moment. I'm not ready to shut off my concern for Nabers, but what I will say is I don't need to see him go crazy in practice anymore. I don't need to see him run 12 routes in week 1 of the preseason against the Detroit Lions, not to be targeted, running with Drew Lock. At this point, if Daniel Jones is not on the field, Malik Nabers should not be on the field. I don't care what the preseason chemistry is with Tommy DeVito or Drew Lock with Malik Nabers. I care what's going to happen in week 1 against the Minnesota Vikings at noon, 1 p.m. Eastern time, and how the chemistry is with Daniel Jones and Malik Nabers. And if Jones isn't playing, which it sounds like he is going to play in week 2, I don't need to see Nabers out there. I'll take it a step further. I don't need to see Malik Nabers in the preseason. I don't need to see him at practice anymore. This dude is special. He's going to change life for the Giants offense. He already has. And really, you're nothing really without him on offense. So why don't we just put ourselves and him in the best situation as a team to make sure he is ready to rock and roll for week 1 Sunday against the Minnesota Vikings and be ready to go. I don't need to see anymore. The dude's special. He was targeted 18 times in 2 practices against the Detroit Lions, and he caught 17 balls. We've seen enough. The chemistry will continue to build, and you'll use the regular season to do that. But there's no reason to put him in harm's way and this team in harm's way, because if he's not playing, this team's worse. I don't need to see any more from him. Hit that thumbs up icon. Let's hope Malik Nabers is all right. If you want Malik Nabers to be good and ready to go, hit that thumbs up icon. Some other injury news. Evan Neal is no longer on the PUP list, and he was back at practice today working in a limited capacity. And I loved what he told the media when he said, I'm going to do whatever this team asks me to do. They didn't go on to say what that is, but maybe it's play backup tackle. Maybe you're the swing tackle for this team now, because he should not be the starting right tackle. I don't care where he was picked. I don't care what college he went to. I don't care how much money he makes. The best man should play, and the best man for the job is Jermaine Illuminor. The best right tackle on this team is Jermaine Illuminor. It's not Evan Neal. So Jermaine should be your starting right tackle. But if we want to talk about Evan Neal starting to cross-train at guard, I'm all in on that. I'm totally fine with that. I believe and have a pretty strong feeling it's going to be John Runyan as your starting left guard and Greg Van Roten as your starting right guard. But I'm okay with him working behind them, him being the first guy up if something happens via injury. I also saw today that today was the first time that Greg Van Roten got some right guard snaps for the New York Giants so far through training camp. After being signed a couple of weeks ago, probably at this point, he had only been training at center because John Michael Schmitz had not been back. But today it was Austin Schlottman, the veteran free agent that came over from the Minnesota Vikings in free agency, that was getting those first-team center snaps, and it was Van Roten working at that right guard spot. We also saw John Michael Schmitz working in some individual drills on the side, not ready to return at a full capacity, but he's hopefully getting closer and day by day, and maybe we could live in a world where week one, the starting offensive line for the New York Giants is Andrew Thomas at left tackle, John Runyan at left guard, John Michael Schmitz at center, Greg Van Roten at right guard, and Jermaine Illuminor at right tackle. It's not the best offensive line in the world. Not a top 5, not top 10, but maybe top 15. And I would do some nasty things to have a middle-of-the-pack offensive line for the New York Giants, because I'm sick of seeing 28th, 29th, 30th, 31st, 32nd. To go from giving up 85 sacks last year, the second most in NFL history, to having potentially a middle-of-the-pack offensive line would be awesome. And I think every New York Giants fan would take that. Not going to rush Evan Neal back. I don't think the Giants are. I don't think the right tackle job is his. I believe it's Illuminor. It should be Illuminor. Over the last 2 years, he's proven he's a much better right tackle than him. I'd have him work as a swing tackle with some guard tackle flex. That's what I would look at. Last thing I want to talk about today is Daniel Jones is supposedly expected to play for the New York Giants this upcoming week in the preseason against the Houston Texans. If you remember last year, the Giants in week 2 of the preseason, that was the first time we saw the offensive starters, and the Giants had that electric drive where Daniel Jones, I believe, was 8 of 9 for like 50 yards and had like 14 play-action fakes, and he found Waller here, he found Waller there, and I expect the starting offense to be out there. I know Malik Nabers is going to want to go. He's a dog. He wants to play football, but we've got bigger things than one drive in week 2 in the preseason against the Houston Texans. Do everything you can for when week 1 gets here, the Giants are the most healthy they could be, and they can go win a football game. Because it's not going to be easy. The Vikings are a solid team. Giants can beat them, though. We've seen it, and we know that. Shout out to everybody that tuned in. If you haven't yet, hit that thumbs up icon. Subscribe to the channel. We're back in studio tomorrow. We'll be live. We'll have a video in the morning. And football season is here. So buckle up, and let's go Big Blue.